China's creating so much energy, and they are going to hand it to them. But we're creating as much or more, and we're letting them do that. I'm very proud of it. It was my idea. I said, you can't create this much energy. We needed more than double the energy currently in the country just to take care of the AI plants. And I said, we can't do that. We have an old grid system. And I came up with the idea, you're brilliant, you have a lot of money. Let's see what you can do. You can build your own electric generating plants. And they looked at me, they didn't believe me. All of the names that are, I think, in the room right now, if you want to know the truth, they didn't believe it. And I said, no, you can't. They came back 2 weeks and they didn't have the plan. They said, we thought you were kidding. They said, no, not only am I not kidding, you're going to have your approvals within 2 weeks. I always say nuclear will take 3 weeks. But most ongoing that they're going oil and gas. They're even going coal in some cases. Because of my landslide election victory, the United States avoided the catastrophic energy collapse, which befell every European nation that pursued the Green New Scam, perhaps the greatest hoax in history. The Green New Scam, windmills all over the place, destroy your land, destroy your land. Every time that goes around, you lose $1,000. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's
Order
not
filled.
the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. What they did before he got there, I guess that's why he got there. And electricity prices are 64% higher. The United Kingdom produces just 1/3 of the total energy from all sources that it did in 1999. Think of that, 1/3. And they're sitting on top of the North Sea, one of the greatest reserves anywhere in the world, but they don't use it. And that's one reason why their energy has reached catastrophically low levels with equally high prices. High prices, very low levels. Think of that, 1/3. You're sitting on top of the North Sea. And they like to say, well, that's depleted. It's not depleted. It's got 500 years. They haven't even found the oil. The North Sea is incredible. They don't let anybody drill. Environmentally, they don't let them drill. They make it impossible for the oil companies. They take 92% of the revenues. So the oil companies say, we can't do it. They came to see me. Is there anything you can do? I want Europe to do great. I want UK to do great. Sitting on one of the greatest energy sources in the world, and they don't use it. In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses, and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever see that? Because we're looking smart. China's very smart. They make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin, they don't do anything. They use a thing called coal mostly. China goes with the coal, they go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear a little bit, and they're doing just fine. They make a fortune selling the windmills. So I think really that's one that they wouldn't be surprised if it stopped. They are shocked that it continues to go. Them one's very friendly with me. They're shocked that people continue to buy those damn things. They killed the birds, they ruined your landscapes. Other than that, I think they're fabulous, right? Stupid people buy them. The consequences of such destructive policies have been stark, including lower economic growth, lower standards of living, lower birth rates, more socially disruptive migration, more vulnerability to hostile foreign adversaries.
I'm just gonna let this one run.
If it stopped me out, hey man, doesn't matter. You know, higher time frame, we're selling though. But I got in because I believe when market open, we might retrace. We'll be here. We'll see.
Order filled.
Doesn't matter. It just might take me out and then go. But I want to see this now take it out before we keep going up. So I'm gonna wait for market to open.
getting on it. And they tried. Denmark knows. We literally set up bases on Greenland for Denmark. We fought for Denmark. We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's that big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. 2 weeks ago, they saw weapons that nobody ever heard of. They weren't able to fire one shot at us. They said, what happened? Everything was discombobulated. They said, we got them in our sights. Press the trigger, and nothing happened. No anti-aircraft missiles went up. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed down right next to the people that sent it. They said, what the hell is going on? Those those defensive systems were made by Russia and by China. So they're going to go back to the drawing boards on this. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory. It's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. It's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. You know, when we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason. You know? Everyone talks about the mineral. There's so many places. There's no rare earth. No such thing as rare earth. There's rare processing, but there's so much rare earth, and this to get to this rare earth, you through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. It's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere. And we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries. You know, for 2 centuries they've been trying to do it. They should have kept it after World War II. They had a different president, and so people think different. Much more necessary now than it was at that time. In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%. Outside of them. See that with great respect for Denmark. These people I love. These leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have acquired. There's nothing wrong with it. Many of them, some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great vast wealth, great vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse, stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance, the NATO alliance. The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I'll tell you that. When you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so little in return. And I've been a critic of NATO for many years. And yet I've done more to help NATO than any other president by far, than any other person. We wouldn't have NATO if I didn't get involved in my first term. The war with Ukraine is an example. We are thousands of miles away, separated by a giant ocean. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election were rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. Probably breaking news, but it's a rigged election. You can't have rigged election. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally good press. I always say strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media's there. It's very crooked, it's very biased. But someday it'll straighten out because it's losing all credibility. Think of it. When I went in a landslide, a giant landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything, and they only get negative press. That means that it has no credibility. And if they're going to get credibility, they're going to have to be fair. You need a fair press. But you also need those other elements. And I inherited a terrible, terrible situation. The border was open. The inflation was raging. Everything was bad with the United States when I came into office. But I also inherited a mess with Ukraine and Russia, something that would never happen. I know Putin very well. He and I would discuss Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do any of that. He said, Vladimir, you're not doing it. He would never have done it. It was terrible what happened. I could see it happening too. After I left, I could see it happening. Biden had given Ukraine and NATO $350 billion, staggering sum, $350 billion. I came in and just like the southern border, just like inflation, just like economy, I said, wow, this place is in trouble, meaning our country. All of these things were out of control. But the border was out of control. We fixed it, the strongest border anywhere in the world. and I've now been working on this war for 1 year, during which time I settled 8 other wars. India, Pakistan, I settled other wars that were Vladimir Putin, all the Armenia, Azerbaijan. He said, I can't believe you said all that for 35 years. I settled it in one day. And President Putin called me. He said, you know, I can't believe I worked on that war for 10 years trying to settle and I couldn't do it. I said, do me a favor, focus on settling your war. Don't worry about that one. What does the United States get out of all of this work, all of this money, other than death, destruction, and massive amounts of cash going to people who don't appreciate what we do? They don't appreciate what we do. Talking about NATO, talking about Europe. They have to work on Ukraine. We don't. The United States is very far away. Big, beautiful ocean separating us. We have nothing to do with it. Until I came along, NATO was only supposed to pay 2% of GDP, but they weren't paying. Most of the countries weren't paying anything. The United States was paying for virtually 100% of NATO. And I got that stopped. I said, that's not fair. But then more importantly, I got NATO to pay 5%, and now they were paying, and now they are paying. So something nobody said was possible. They said we will never go up by 2%. But they went to 5%, and now they're paying the 5%. They didn't pay the 2%, and now they're paying. And they're stronger for it. They have an excellent, by the way, Secretary General, who's possibly in the room. Mark, are you here? Yes, he's here. Hello. We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. I will say, oh, that's probably the biggest statement. Okay, people thought I would use force. I don't use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, but we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now. After I rebuilt the military,
It's reacting from this fair value gap on the 4 hour, so
a budget of $1.5 trillion.
so it's really strong too. Plus, President Trump is speaking.
Is 100 times more powerful than the great battleships you saw in World War II. Those great, big, gorgeous ships, the Missouri, the Alabama. I thought maybe we could take them out of mothballs. They said, no, sir, these ships are 100. Think of that. 100 times more powerful than
I'm just gonna wait for market open now.
magnificent pieces of art that you saw so many times ago that you still see on television. You say, wow, what a force. 100 times, each ship 100 times more powerful than the big battleships of the past. So that was the end of the mothball story. So what we have gotten out of NATO is nothing except to protect Europe from the Soviet Union and now Russia. We've helped them for so many years. We've never gotten any, except we pay for NATO. But we paid for many years until I came along. We paid for, in my opinion, 100% of NATO because they weren't paying their bills. And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right, title, and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally, it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement? Which is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean where if there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay. Is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built? We're building a golden dome. It's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. They should be grateful. Canada, Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it. We did it for Israel. And by the way, I told people, we need to stop taking credit for the dome. That's our technology. That's our stuff. But they had a lot of courage and they were good fighters and they did a good job. And we wiped out the Iran nuclear threat like nobody can believe. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. That, Venezuela, taking down Soleimani, wiping out al-Baghdadi when he tried to reinstitute ISIS. We did a lot. A lot of good things. All perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed. Everybody told me that. A military expert told me, sir, everything you've done has been perfectly executed. I said, I know. So other presidents have spent, whether foolishly or not, trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO and gotten absolutely nothing in return. We've never asked for anything. So it's a one-way street. Now they want us to help them with Ukraine. And I say, we're going to. I'm really helping, not even now. I want to see, last week, it was 10,000 soldiers, but last month it was 31,000 soldiers died. 31,000. That's this room times, number of people in this room times 30. Think of it. 30,000 soldiers died in 1 month. The month before it was 27,000. The month before that it was 28,000. The month before that it was 25,000. It's a bloodbath over there. And that's what I want to start. It doesn't help the United States, but these are souls. These are young people. Look like some of you right on the front line. You could go to war, the parents are sleeping out, really what's coming back. 2 weeks later, they're going to blow your son's head's been blown off. I want to stop it. It's a horrible war. It's the worst since World War II. We keep going to exceed World War II. The numbers are staggering. How many people have lost? They don't want to talk about it. Ukraine and Russia lost just tremendous amount. And I'm dealing with President Putin, and he wants to make a deal. I'm dealing with President Zelensky, and I think he wants to make a deal. I'm meeting him today. He might be in the audience right now. But we got to get that war stopped because too many people are dying, needlessly dying. Too many souls are being lost. It's the only reason I'm interested in doing it. But in doing it, I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and until the last few days, when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right? Last night. Very smart man said, he's our daddy. He's running it. I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being. But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located, that can play a vital role in world peace and world protection. It's a very small ask compared to what we have given them for many, many decades. But the problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. We gave them the call. Gentlemen, we are being attacked. We're under attack by such and such a nation. I know them all very well. I'm not sure that they'd be there. I know we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us. So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us. So Iceland, I can tell you, the stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's going on. And we have an unbelievable future in that stock. That stock market is gonna be doubled. We're gonna hit 50,000 and that stock market's gonna double in a relatively short period of time because of everything that's out there. But this is a good example. After giving NATO and European nations trillions and trillions of dollars in defense, they buy our weapons. We make the greatest weapons in the world, but now we're gonna make them faster, much faster. You saw that. I put a cap on the salaries, and I put no buybacks, no stock buybacks, no various other things that they were doing. And you're making $50 million, but it take them 3 years to give you a Patriot missile. I said, that's not good. My chauffeur can do a better job than that, and he makes slightly less than 50. They make big salaries. If they're gonna make those big salaries, they're gonna have to produce a lot faster. The good news is we have the greatest equipment in the world. Now we're gonna start making it a lot faster. They're gonna build additional plants. And all of the money that goes into stock buybacks is gonna go into building plants. We're not allowing stock buybacks by defense companies any longer. They're gonna build new plants to make Tomahawks, Patriots. We have the best equipment. F-35s, F-47, the new one just coming out. They say it's the most devastating plane, fighter jet. You know, they called it 47. If I don't like it, I'm gonna take the 47 off it. I wonder why they called it 47. We'll have to think about it. But if I don't like it, I'm gonna take that 47 off. But it's supposed to be the stage 6. It's supposed to be the first stage 6 plane, undetectable, like our B-2 bombers were undetectable. They flew right over Iran. They were undetectable. And they did their job and they got the hell out of there. So we want a piece of ice for world protection. And we won't get it. We never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember. A strong and secure America means a strong NATO. And that's one reason why I'm working every day to ensure our military is very powerful. Our borders are very strong. And above all, our economy is strong because national security requires economic security and economic prosperity. And we have the greatest that we've ever had. Biden and his allies destroyed our economy and gave us perhaps the worst inflation in American history. They say 48 years. I say forever, but I think 48 years is the equivalent to forever. Whether it's 48 years or ever, it's terrible. Costing the typical family $33,000. What they did to this country should never, ever be forgotten. It's early, but he has to be rated as the worst president we've ever had by far. The auto pen did much of the damage. The auto pen, he was the auto pen president. Because I don't believe the same president would have ever signed the kind of things that he signed. But now grocery prices, energy prices, airfares, mortgage rates, rent, and car payments are all coming down, and they're coming down fast. We inherited a mess. But we've done a hell of a job in 12 months. Under my most favored nation policy for drug prices, the cost of prescription drugs is coming down by up to 90%, depending on the way you calculate. You can also say 5, 6, 7, 800%. There are two ways of figuring that. But we have a favored nations policy that every president wanted, no president was able to get. I got it, and other nations, and I had to use tariffs in order to get it. In other words, a pill that costs 10% in London costs $130. Think it costs $10 in London, costs $130. Think, well, that's bad. Friends of mine would say, we go to London, you can buy the stuff for nothing. We go all over the world, we can buy it for nothing. Because basically America was subsidizing every nation in the world. Because presidents allowed them to get away with it. It became very tough. So when I called up Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. what the hell happened? But I watched him sort of be tough. But he was at $10 for a pill. And I said, Emmanuel, and I have all the big pharmaceutical companies are in total agreement. It wasn't easy, by the way. They're tough, smart. They've been getting away with the scam for a long time. But they gave it up. But they said, you'll never get the countries to approve it. I said, why is that? Because they won't. They always said, we're not paying any more. Get the rest from the United States. So over the years, they stayed the same. We just went up, up, up. And I mean, we pay 13, 14, 15 times more than some certain countries would. So I said, no, they'll approve it 100%. So you'll never get them to approve it. I said, I guarantee you. But I actually started with Emmanuel, who probably is in the room too. And I like him. I actually like him, hard to believe, isn't it? And I said, Emmanuel, you're going to have to lift the price of that pill to $20, maybe $30. Think of that. So that means it's a doubling of prescription drugs. Might be tripling, might be a quadrupling. It's not easy. No, Donald, I will not do that. I said, yes, you will, 100%. He said, no. You're asking me to double. I said, Emmanuel, you've been taking advantage of the United States for 30 years with prescription drugs. You really should do it, and you will do it. I have no doubt. In fact, I am 100% sure you're going to. No, I will not do it. Because he has to, in all fairness to him, he has to double or triple. Because the world being a bigger place than the United States, it's not that you meet in the middle. You just have to go up some, and we come down a lot. They go up a little, we come down a lot. So we're at $130, they're at 10. So they may have to go to 20 or 30. No more than that. I said, Emmanuel, you're going to be doubling or tripling? No. I said, here's a story, Emmanuel. The answer is you're going to do it, you're going to do it fast. And if you don't, I'm putting a 25% tariff on everything that you sell into the United States and a 100% tariff on your wines and champagnes. And that's about 10 times more than what I'm requesting. And you're going to do it. I don't want to go public with it, but you may make me do that. No, Donald, I will do it. I will do it. It took me, on average, 3 minutes a country. Saying the same thing, you will do it. They all said, no, I will not do it. You're asking me to double the cost of prescription. I said, that's right, because you've been screwing us for 30 years. And they said, we will not do it. I said, that's all right. On Monday morning, we're putting 25, 30, 50, I gave different numbers for different countries. This is also national security we're talking. Not fair. We're not going to subsidize the whole world. And every one of those countries have agreed to do it. So one of the biggest things that I've done is the fact that we have now most favored nation. We will pay whatever the lowest price is in the entire world. So our drug prices are going to be coming down by staggering 90%. Again, you could say 1,000%, 2,000%. Depends on the way you want to figure it, but we'll go with the way the fake news likes it better because it sounds, can you imagine a 90% reduction sounds much worse. But drug prices are going to be coming down tremendously in all the nations, and I appreciate them doing it, but they did it. In all fairness, without tariffs, I wouldn't have been able to get it done. After declining $3,000 under Biden, real incomes are up in the United States by $2,000, $3,000, and even $5,000 and more. Home ownership has always been a symbol of health and vigor of American society, but that goal fell out of reach for millions and millions of people in the Biden era because interest rates went up so high. Today, I'm taking action to bring back this bedrock of the American dream. In recent years, Wall Street giants, institutional investment firms, many of you are here, many of you are good friends of mine, many of you are supporters. Sorry to do this, I'm so sorry. But you've driven up housing prices by purchasing hundreds of thousands of single-family homes, and it's been a great investment for you. Often as much as 10% of houses on the market. You know, the crazy thing is a person can't get depreciation on a house. But when a corporation buys it, they get depreciation. Okay, that's something we're gonna have to think about too. I don't know if too many people think about that. You buy a corporation, they buy 500 houses, they buy hundreds of thousands of that 500.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
Me da, yo me salí porque yo lo veo como que puede manipular todavía. Aquí. Ya entrar ahora como que no sería inteligente de mi parte, yo espero.
Order filled.
Entré demasiado apalancado. ¿Sí?
Order filled. Order filled.
Yo me voy de aquí, ya yo estoy como sobreoperando. Me palanqué un poquito ahí. En realidad, como hoy se llevó el London High, él puede seguir cayendo. Estos son los objetivos que yo veo aquí para este mercado. Pero como está, yo puedo ver como que puede venir aquí para después seguir cayendo, porque en temporalidades más altas yo puedo ver que este mercado está muy bajista. Yo quiero estos lows ahora que venga y se lo lleven. Está reaccionando de un gap de 4 horas. Y eso siempre, las temporalidades más altas van a tener el control de la dirección del precio. Entonces, como está aquí en 4 horas, simplemente también puede ser un retroceso, que yo digo que pueda que venga hasta aquí, pero como se llevó este low de overnight low, no está creando una estructura todavía bajista aquí. O sea, en un minuto tú no la puedes ver. Ahora lo que me gustaría es que quizá viniera, rompiera aquí, crear un tipo de estructura para seguir cayendo. Y por eso que yo digo que puede venir hacia aquí y después seguir cayendo. So, ahora mismo yo no opero más, porque sobreoperé. Yo hago, como te digo, yo hago scalping, pero scalping, si tú te dejas involucrar mucho con las emociones, te puede bite your ass, te puede hacer mucho daño. Porque tú empiezas a querer confundir los movimientos. Como si aquí yo estaba bajista, yo hubiese estado bien todavía, pero ya yo mejor termino el día, porque ya me confundí demasiado, traté de entrar, estoy bajista y entonces estoy comprando, ¿qué hago yo comprando? ¿Tú entiendes? Eso me puede causar mucho efecto en mis operativas si sigo haciendo eso. O sea, ahora mismo, por más que yo quisiera entrar a ese trade, yo no entraría. Yo mejor me la quedo ya. Ya se me quite el yo tengo una cuenta aquí que no. Bueno.
Order filled.
Vamos a ponernos a mirar ahí, el trade que vaya hacia ahí, el objetivo que tú tienes. Voy a ponerlo hasta aquí. 1, 2. ¿Te ve bien? No sé. Pero eso puede ayudar a uno a mirar el trade. No me da confianza ese trade todavía de que para seguir vendiendo. Pues la estructura como está aquí, aunque uno lo pueda ver más bajito, sí, se ve la estructura, rompió el high, rompió el low, te dio el retroceso y ahora cae. Pero no me da mucha confianza. No me da mucha confianza. Ahí puede hasta devolverse de aquí. Pero vamos. Mira, en 5 minutos simplemente se puede ver como que está dando el retroceso para seguir rompiendo para arriba. La entrada válida de aquí. Ahora sí. Este es el primer fair value gap de la sesión que dio. Vamos a ver si lo respeta o si no lo manipula. Y esa es la razón que yo le digo. Ya me sacó. Pero ya terminé. Esta es una cuenta que yo tengo aquí que ya yo la quemé hace tiempo, pero la uso para practicar. La tengo en Jordan porque yo le doy, yo me palanqueo mucho aquí. Para ver los números y acostumbrarme a mirar números altos. Ese sería el objetivo ya. Como decir, si ese no se da, una persona que esté comprando pudiera comprar desde aquí. Porque es válido la compra, pero la venta todavía está como F.
Order filled.
Ahí sería como un stop que tú pusieras. Ya si PRECIO viene para acá, más probable que sí ya sepa. Y busca eso. No. Puede estar muy bien más stop, pero esos son trades como bien arriesgosos. Hasta que Trump no deje de hablar, este mercado no va a coger una dirección. Ya yo terminé mi día. Y ve, para serte sincero, este día yo, ¿cómo te digo? Yo no estaba supuesto a coger el segundo trade, lo cogí. Yo estaba supuesto ya a terminar mi día. Es algo como que lo tengo que seguir trabajando. Yo tengo 2 trades por día, pero otra de las reglas mías es que si ya mi primer trade fue ganador, aunque sea $20, ya yo estoy supuesto a pararme. Pero es algo que vamos a ir trabajando poco a poco. Poco a poco lo vamos trabajando. Yo estoy casi ya pasando esta cuenta, vamos a decir, me faltan $700, 600 y pico. Yo tengo que ir bajando el riesgo. O sea, por eso yo vine y operé con 3 lotes. Yo usualmente opero con 5. Pero estoy bajando el riesgo porque eso también me ayuda con mi psicología. O sea, me ayuda a no tener miedo si el trade se va en contra mía y me saca. Pero no estoy teniendo como esa paciencia de aguantar un poquito más de trades. Ya como yo hago scalping, activación, así que te digo. A mí yo no vi. Es que yo no hubiese entrado aquí porque es que se ve muy vaina. Aquí me gustó porque rompió. Ya yo veía que iba a romper esto. So, lo que yo estaba mirando era, ok, viene para estos highs. Pero cuando está cerca de aquí, que yo veo que está batallando, yo iba a hacer este trade. Una es que estoy sobreapalancado y ya yo estaba supuesto estar en otro trade. Son 2 trades que yo cojo. Y aunque sea scalping, o sea, esta es la estrategia que a mí me ha funcionado más. Yo he tenido estrategia como aguantando un trade un poco más. Vamos a decir que si yo entro aquí, pongo mi stop aquí y lo dejo correr. O sea, mira como yo estuviera aquí. Yo no tengo esa capacidad de paciencia para esperar un movimiento de que aquí, para que después a veces baje un poco y después te salga. Yo mejor traté de poner esta estrategia para mí en práctica hace mucho ya. Esta es la estrategia que yo he podido retirar, retiro y todo eso. Y yo digo, esta es la que me funciona. Aquí que tengo que quedarme, no puedo cambiar. Ni que estar brincando a hacer una cosa y la otra. Yo mejor me enfoco en lo que yo siento más cómodo y que siento que me funciona y me ha funcionado. Yo simplemente lo que tengo que ir mejorando cosas, como no apalancarme en un trade porque me siento más convencido de que este es el trade y seguir como reglas simples que yo tengo en los trades. O sea, una de las cosas, vamos a decir, estando aquí, es cuando yo veo ese momentum que el precio quiere ir hacia la dirección que yo estoy viendo o los niveles que yo tengo marcados, yo entro al trade y trato de poner stop loss lo más cerca del próximo low que pueda, que está. Este de aquí, o sea, no un trade en realidad tiene lógica, pero no tiene lógica por el minuto aquí, porque hay un fair value gap para mí. Yo estoy viendo que puede racionar de este fair value gap, aunque sea un poquito de ese movimiento que yo agarre, o sea, puedo hacer dinero. Y eso fue la intención porque yo entré aquí. O sea, cuando yo vi ese movimiento así, yo dije, ok, vamos a ver si va a dar un retroceso, porque está reaccionando de ese fair value gap. Y también vamos a decir 15 segundos. Está ahí de 1 minuto y de 15 segundos. Están los dos. Entonces está resonando de ahí. Yo pongo mi stop por aquí. Que es demasiado todavía. Pero yo siempre pongo un 1 a 1. O sea, que si había dejado mi stop ahí, mira dónde viene perfectamente a sacar stop. Que a veces es bueno dejarle un poquito de breathing room. Y porque siempre muchas veces viene a donde está el low de fair value gap que empieza. El candle que lo empieza. Viene y lo toca. Y es tocadito nada más que viene. Manipula y sigue. Ahora lo más probable es que yo veo eso que yo estaba diciendo. Que vengamos aquí. Es un fair value gap de 1 hora. O también él puede venir, manipular aquí, romper aquí, venir y seguir bajando. Y yo lo bajé hasta aquí, güey. Mañana es otro día. Déjame ver qué hay mañana para ver si opero o no. Mañana, Thursday, 8:30, ok. Damn, Friday va a haber un regalo de noticias all day. Friday, 2 a.m. 9:45. Eso, muy bien, yo no opero, yo ni loco. Yo lo más probable opero una cuenta mañana, si opere. Y cuando yo opere el pre-market. Opere el pre-market después de esta noticia. ¿Dónde está? 8:30, después de las 8:30. Porque a las 10 va a salir esta noticia también. So, when I ve pre-market, si hay algo bonito, lo operen y vamos a operar una cuenta. Que esta que voy a operar. Mañana compro otra cuenta. Yo estoy comprando. A ver si compro otra cuenta mañana. Pero ya. Me despego de aquí hoy. Pasen buen día, mi gente. Quien sea que ve este video.